Hey, pals, welcome back to another episode of the Pool Box Pals podcast. My name is Monk. With me, as always, is my dearest pal, Mad. How you
How's
doing,
it
Mad?
going? Doing
Yeah,
well.
good. But we are also joined by a lovely guest, Louis Southard. Did I say that correct?
No, not at all.
No.
Don't worry, Monk. I got it. Hello, pullbox pals. I am Louis Southard, comic book writer extraordinaire, creative genius
yeah.
of a generation, and writer of some of your favorite series, the Blackout
That was
Bombshell from
that's
Sumerian Comics,
that's
Midnight Western Theater from Scout Comics,
oh my
and
god,
many
that's
more.
such a better introduction than mine. I mean, mine was nothing. That was something. I was
You
so
handed it
nervous.
off.
Oh, buddy, I was so nervous through the whole thing to just screw it up. So like, it's just like I'm just fumbling the ball, knowing that I'm inevitably gonna drop it. But don't worry, I want you to know that I have a history of doing this. I officiated my best friend's wedding, and he married a lovely lady from the Philippines. Moved here when she was young with her family, and I butchered her last name, and her whole family's just laughing at like the white kid who can't do Tom Smith, anything outside of that. But yeah, that was a lovely introduction. Everything that you said about yourself is absolutely true. You
Oh
are
yeah.
the author of Midnight Western Theater and the Blackout Bombshell, and just comics that we are absolutely loving. I can speak for
Yeah.
myself as well as Matt. I know that he's jonesing to say it, but we have been looking forward to having you on the podcast even before we had done episode 1.
Yeah.
So
Well, and we kind of mentioned backstage too, like the initial run of Midnight Western Theater was one of the first like indies we really reviewed on this. Monk had already been reading it, and then I played catch up. I bought them all, and I think I caught up like right when issue 5 came out, and then we did an episode on it. And man, yeah, just great stuff. Got it. Actually, is probably the turning point into which I started going more indie than with Marvel and DC. I started getting a lot more
Oh
indie
wow.
stuff after reading Midnight Western Theater. So
Well, that's certainly high praise.
yeah,
I really appreciate that. I remember I tuned in for one of your shows, and you guys had mentioned that you guys read the original run, and that always catches me by surprise. Especially, I remember anytime I go to a show and somebody comes up and either brings me their copy to sign or is like, "Oh man, I love the original." I'm like, "You get a free poster. Like you rock. Like you were there." You were there in the
just
beginning, and I got to show a little bit of gratitude. And I think that's a great reasoning, like as to I guess why I'm even here, because you guys have shown constant support, and I tremendously appreciate that. So,
yeah.
what greater gift than my presence now to go through the nitty gritty of everything?
We're
I
not
guess that
worthy.
well, yeah, I was gonna say maybe you should just host the rest of this thing, and you should just kick it to us every once in a while with questions that we should throw to you, because I'm
I'm
sure
going to
you
be
have.
interviewing you guys about like your tragic backstories, your top 10 comics, what your personal interests, hobbies and/or interests. We'll go from there.
Wow,
How
But
long?
it's
How
gonna
long
be
do you got?
yeah. Geez, I'm gonna say this
I
is
have
gonna.
I have
Go ahead.
3 hours. So as long as we don't go over that, we'll be great.
There we
All
go. We're
right.
gonna be the next Joe Rogan out here just doing ridiculously long podcasts for no apparent reason. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I would love to chat all of those things that you listed with them, because I feel like it would just be a fun conversation of diving through our, our tragic backstories, because we got them, and I'm sure that you got them too. And yeah, and just dive into favorite comics. But listen, we're gonna be here every week, same pool time, same pool channel. But you're not going to be here every pool week, so we're going to dive into what your life is like. When did you get into comics? Was it something that you grew up doing? Were you kind of just a fan of Batman and Spider-Man, or what? How did you get introduced into that world?
Ooh, that's do you want the real answer, or do you want the more tasteful answer? Because no one's ever actually asked me this before.
Oh,
So
really?
this, yeah. So this, okay, I'll give you the answer.
There you
So,
go.
when I was
We'll
12 years
take it.
old. Okay. Here's the tragic backstory time, and way to kill the mood for anyone tuning in. But when I was 12 years old, I lost someone very close to me, and around that time, Spider-Man he had died for the Superior Spider-Man arc, and I guess because I had death on my mind, I'm like, well, this is odd. How could Spider-Man die? So I started reading Superior Spider-Man, and as a little kid growing through grief, reading a series about like becoming better, and becoming like a better person and having a better outlook on life, kind of really it helped me in a way I did not ever expect a comic book could do. It was the book I needed at that time, and I think that kind of showed me the sort of power and the sort of like how wonderful the medium can be. So not to kill the mood, but that's like the honest to God like introduction to comics, and I started then, and I never stopped, and
really
and then and then oh, go
I was
on.
just gonna say that's around the time that would have been 2013, 14, somewhere in that area. So you said Superior Spider-Man, right?
Yes, it was issue 700. I started with issue 698, I think.
Okay, yeah, because that was probably around the time that I started getting into it, because I was reading those comics as well when they were coming out, and they were that was just a fantastic comic. Just the art in that, the story of just everything. So that is, tragic backstory aside, that's a great comic to have your first run of. And I think
there are worse ones to get into. So truly luck of the draw, I think.
Yeah. Well, and to me, that's also kind of like what Marvel kind of speaks into, and like what their presence has always been in the comic book world is, I say it all the time on here, but Stan Lee always said like Marvel is the world outside your window. And what he meant by that is like these stories are supposed to like whether or not you grab onto the story, you should be able to take something away from it. And if it's, you're coping the loss of somebody special to you, or just maybe a breakup, or just something tragic happened in your life, like comics are a way to peer into the world to kind of help you alleviate the pain you're going through. And Marvel has just always done that. So that's actually really cool to hear that Sinister Spider-Man was something that is it Sinister Spider-Man? Superior. Is
Sinister Spider-Man a thing?
No. I'm thinking
spine tingling.
I'm thinking of spine tingling. I picked it up today.
There you go. That's fantastic. I want to go back to, though, what you said about the idea of discovering the power of a comic. Again, because we went back into this backstage a little bit, but I'm a musician, and I said backstage, and I still agree with it, that Matt, I'm sure, is tired of hearing me bring this up, especially whenever we have guests on. But I remember the first time I heard a song that like had that same power on me of just, again, it's the same description of like, oh, there's power in this medium here, And for me, it was just like right place, right time. Like I was with my, best friends. We were driving around. It was like my favorite time of year, perfect music for the day, and so it's very interesting how like you can get wrapped up in these things, and these things can become so influential on you that you have like this response to then give yourself back to it, like kind of in service to like what it was there for you. Does that make sense?
I couldn't agree more. I think that's sort of my modus operandi with some of the books I make, where it's the idea that depending on the message in the book, or if you have a certain theme or just something specific in mind, that maybe there is that hope that what you put out is seen by someone who can really relate to that story, or get that piece that you're putting out. Because I'm sure there are plenty of books you read and you're like, oh, that was fun. But I'm sure that there are other people that can kind of see that maybe there's something a bit, I don't want to use the word deeper, but I guess that's all I got, like going on, or there's an overall message that certain people can see and relate to.
Right.
And I think that's just fantastic. And I couldn't agree with you more on like a musical level on how like creativity is just. I think in terms of, at least for me, I love music, and my favorite musician is David Bowie, and then in
Nice.
comics, my favorite writer is Grant Morrison, and I think both of them are great examples of like twisting it and turning it to what you want it to be in that time, or like trying to change it to be more modern while still like complementing your old sound, or even like fuck all the old stuff. I can swear, I assume.
Sure, why not?
Okay, like F all the old stuff. Like we'll create something completely new. So I think for me, like as a fan, those are the things I really connect with.
Mm.
Nice.
Yeah, 100%. So what did it look like from there then? Were you diving into, did you just, like you said, you just continued to go, were you getting them at a comic shop, or how were you coming across them?
So there were a couple comic book shops in my hometown, but the best one was always miles away, and I'd beg my dad to take me there, and he hated going there. He never wanted to go to the comic shop, and I was mainly reading a lot of Marvel Now and Secret Wars, because I'm a younger guy. So I would say my introductory period was 2012 to 2015, and then by the era of, let's say, all new, all different Marvel and DC Rebirth, I was like, that was my dark period for a good long. I'd say there to 2018, I'm like, no comics. I'm a serious guy. I focus on what teenage boys focus on. So and then this leads into how I even got into comics, and this is a legendary story that's on many of it on interview, but it's the truth. And it is that I was, as any good origin story takes place, it takes place in Paris, France. I have been shipped off to go to university completely by mistake in their global campus program. I checked the wrong box and they shipped me off to Paris at quite possibly the most inopportune time of my life. And I am there for 3 weeks, and I am losing my mind. I'm paying too much to receive too little back. So I only had a short window of time to get my tuition money back, and I had to evaluate what I wanted in life. And I'm like, screw this. I want to make comics. Like, I remember those comics that I loved and made me feel good. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to try and make a comic book. So I got my money back, and then I moved back to America, and then I moved to New York. And then that's when I spent a good chunk, many years, just trying to get off the ground from there. And then certainly I got there. I broke into the industry. I think 1 year. Yeah, I signed my first ever contract 1 year after starting. So
wow,
dang.
So
that's awesome.
It's not awesome, because that all blew up in my face. Because I don't know if you guys have heard of Action Lab Entertainment.
no, I haven't.
Yeah.
Oh, excellent. Okay, that's awesome. Okay, so they were a publisher for about 10 years. I signed on with them for my first ever book called Villain Seeking Hero, which was a super villain comedy drama. And the 2020 rolled, January 2020, they got editor emails me saying, book's coming out in June, everything's looking good, and everything's fine. So I'm in New York, and I'm celebrating. I'm drinking with my buddies, and I'm like, I'm gonna get a book. I'm a big deal. Oh, look at me. And I'm fucking head honcho. And then what happened next, guys? Do you remember what happened in 2020?
No. Yeah.
Then the world shut down, and then the comic book industry shut down, and then Action Lab Entertainment shut down. So
oh man,
that didn't go nowhere. And I'm like, okay, well, there goes that dream. and and I'm like, well, shit, I don't have a job. I need to fix this. And I go through my emails, and I have a email from Scout Comics saying, we love that Midnight Western Theater pitch. Do you want to make that here? And I'm like, well, I don't have any. I lost everything. So you know what? You guys look mighty excellent right now. So
Well, before we dive too far into Midnight Western Theater, is there a way to get the villain? What? One more time on the
a villain seeking
heroes.
You are too little, too late, my friend. Because it was on. I got the rights back to all the issues because there were 18, and
wow,
how many ended up getting released?
Digitally, the first 6, and then that's when the problem started. So that was that. You could still find reviews online because that was in the period where there were no comics coming out, so all the reviewers were scrambling. So they were like, "Oh, villain seeking hero, what's this?" And got pretty good reviews. So not the worst thing for like a debut, but they were recently on a service called Zestworld, which was a web comics platform, and I was one of their featured creators. But like all good things, they recently bankrupted, and they're just shut their whole thing down. And that was a shame because it was me and like Joelle Jones and what's their name, Amanda Connor and Jimmy Palmiotti and Dave Marquez. It was a whole bunch of us, and is that the original? I don't know what that is.
It looks like it's issue number 6.
6.
Yeah,
it says up here in the corner.
Yeah, that was the first ever one.
Yeah, this looks like a lot of fun. I'm a big fan of this art. This kind of art style that's like, again, I'm sure you'll take this in the right way, but like in a kid's book, of just like like fun and like very round, just a lot of like round edges on everybody.
That is Ben Matsuya, and I thought he was perfect for it because I just wanted to have like a more throwbacky kind of looking book dealing with.
It reminds me of the Tick.
Yeah. I won't lie. I'm too far removed from it now that I can be honest. It very much inspired by the Tick and the Venture Brothers.
Nice.
So
nice.
Good job.
Yeah, but that didn't go nowhere. But we wouldn't have Goth Cowboys without that tremendous failure. So let's all be thankful.
Well, yeah. I mean, Midnight Western Theater. I'm trying to remember what it was like. What my first experience was like seeing it on the shelf, but I know for a fact that I was like
Nirvana, I bet.
Yeah, I mean, it was just I was one with everything around me. The wind was still, it was beautiful, but just seeing it sitting there. And again, I have my copy that I bought right here, and I just remember seeing this on the shelf and just being like, that looks so interesting to me, of just this goth girl riding around with this vampire, and just what are they up to, and just even just from the name alone, from that let's just start there. Midnight Western Theater, like what a dang good name for a comic, because something that I really love about the first arc that we'll talk about is the fact that they're kind of like vignettes or like little just standalone stories, and I love that you presented it in a way with that name of like, this is what this is. This is the Midnight Western Theater, So we're going to look at these characters and kind of just see the stories. So I got to ask, where did this come from? Just give me the backstory on this one.
Okay.
And make it tragic.
Yeah, no, this one is very uplifting, if anything.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'll take that. Give me a Superman backstory.
Yeah, right. Okay, so there I was in a Starbucks, and I was working on Villain Seeking Hero, and that book was it had an overarching story, and it was very continuity focused, where like everything mattered, every little step was a step towards something bigger, and I think I was getting a bit bored with that, which is why the style of Midnight Western Theater was just one and done stories. There is like a continuity, but it's less strict. It's more like, like you're just bouncing around, seeing them at different points in their lives, and I thought that was like a much more exciting thing to do bottle episodes, as you said, because if I had an idea, I think the one that sold me was issue 2, which has the dog cult. Because
yeah.
I got the idea from Son of Sam, because it's like, oh, this dog, this guy says this dog talked to me and told me to kill people, and then I was like, well, what if there's like a whole group of them that are like, this dog knows all, and that's how I got the idea for that one.
God.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, oh, cool. That's the one that sold me. I'm like, okay, that can't be like a giant story arc, but that can just be one story. But the exact thing. So I'm sat looking at my Villain Seeking Hero script. I'm bored. I'm procrastinating. And then I was listening to The Cure. Nice. I was listening to I think it was Pictures of You. And I was also watching.
That's a great song.
Yeah, I'm watching. I was watching Westworld at the time, and I think it was like the perfect stew, because it was like my brain goes like, "Oh, goth cowboys! I've never seen that before," and then I was like, "Wait a minute!" And then I this is not an embellishment. I packed up all my stuff, I went straight home, and I sat down. I'm like, "Well, what would these characters look like?" The other idea was, when I kind of followed this rabbit hole, I like the idea of a duo where one person is normal and the other one is like super powered, but the normal one is the one you're almost scared of, and the one that is like maybe authentic, like superficially more of a threat, that's the one you wouldn't bat an eye at. And then that's how I came up with the dynamic for the two of them. But then I went home, I'm like, okay, who are these characters? And I drew the woman in black, Hortensia, and I drew Alexander. And if you look at their designs, those are the exact designs I drew. Got them right on the first go, and I'm like, this is an idea. And I contacted David Hahn, because we had worked on an issue of Villain Seeking Hero where he was a guest artist on an issue featuring a goth girl as the protagonist. So, and him only signing on because he's like, oh man, I love drawing goth women. So I was like, David, have I got the project for you? And then he's like, oh, this is great. Yeah, no, count me in. And that's how we started.
That's awesome. I mean, I'm such a big fan of the character designs as well as like the internal art. Like the whole thing just is it just works together so well. Matt, I feel like I'm not letting you say anything about this comic. What are you thinking?
Well, it's just like I read tons of reviews about it as I was reading it, and I went back and reread some just with you coming on, and there's a lot of stuff that I just don't agree with, because I felt like a lot of people were talking about like Midnight Western Theater. It's like, it's really good, but it's got a lot of gaps in it. And like when I was reading them, like it feels like these gaps are intentional. And like, I don't know if you had plans to move on to Witch Trials or not, but it just seemed like you were building a world and giving us a snapshot of it, because Hortensia is just such a great character that you can continue to develop. So is Alexander. Their chemistry throughout the series is fantastic. And I'm not surprised that you told us that Villain Seeking Hero is a comedic superhero, like tragedy or whatever it is. But you implement humor into your stories so well. But like, I also think a lot of people can blink and miss it. But yeah, the whole dialogue throughout the series between the two of them was just like really what drew me into Midnight Western Theater.
I always think my favorite line from the whole thing is, it is, I think issue 2 is my favorite one, but it's the one where they're arguing outside of the church, and he's like, I can't go in there, I'm a vampire, and she's like, that's made up, like you can go in there. And then he's like, well, I don't know. And then she's like, well, don't you trust me? And then he's like, I'm not sure. And then she's like, well, we're going in there regardless. And he just goes in.
And he goes in and he's like, why have I been afraid of churches this whole time?
I've been afraid of churches for 70 years. I love him. That's the one thing I miss about Witch Trials, is that he's not in it. But I think I was gonna do a short story with I forget the artist, but I had a whole team set up. But after working with Scout and realizing what we could do, I realized the short story was not going to be. It was going to be a backup. I realized that was kind of out of the question. But the original idea was, while Hortensia is doing her origin story and during witch trials, it cuts to what exactly Alexander was doing in that time. And the idea was it was going to be a story about a regular old farmhand who starts working at a farm, and there's one farmhand who only works at night. And this guy's like, well, what's this guy's deal? And then it would turn out it was Alexander.
Nice.
But I don't think I'll ever get to that one.
Well, hey, can I just say that if you ever do get to that one, if you need just the likeness and names of any background folk who look like they would work on a farm, you're more than welcome to use our likeness. And
well,
names.
Now that I've said it aloud, I can never use it.
Well, that's true. Well,
you have many people right now writing their farmhand stories like, oh, that's genius.
That actually is, that is really genius. Yeah, and to kind of just build up something that Mad was saying about the, I don't know, I don't want to say like spontaneity of the stories or just kind of the the gaps in between them. I feel like, because I went back and reread this arc this past week, and I felt like the focus was more about at the beginning where we see like the little girl in black before she's the girl in the woman in black, and just kind of this story of like, who is she? Like, yeah, we're seeing her in like this kind of like, it's almost like an homage to like older comics where it's just like one off, or like the Shadow or the Phantom, where it's just like they're just here to do whatever. But in your comic, you're giving them like a little bit of a tidbit into like who these characters are.
Well, I figured for the first volume, if each one is, like I said, like it's good to have these one and done stories, but I like the idea of there being an opening salvo that once you read all 5, there is a bigger picture. But if you don't, it's like every comic is somebody's first comic. I like the idea that you could grab any which one in this series, get one complete story, and you are left feeling satisfied. But if you are a trooper and you read all 5, then it's like, oh, damn, there was something bigger going on. And I think that's very cool. And while not necessary, I think it is a wonderful complementary piece for the sequel. Because if you've read that little salvo, then you have some context that's maybe not fully needed for the sequel, but it, if anything, makes you appreciate it just a little bit more. So I think that was good. And if I'm being honest with you, I didn't really expect to write any more. I just, if I'm the real truth was there were originally 6 issues. And it would be that the penultimate one, not the last one was always going to be the same of Hortensia and Alexander meeting, but the penultimate was going to be them dying. It was going to be that they it was told from the perspective of like a bounty hunter who's just hired to kill like these 2 people. And it's kind of like built up of like, oh, who's it going to be? And then of course it's Hortensia and Alexander. And then, the guy wins, and it's like told from the perspective of like, somebody's hero is somebody's antagonist or villain. And I was talked out of that by David because he was like, I like these characters, please don't do that. Like, and I'm like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, no, this is fun. Like, this is a fun book. I think it'd be dumb to come up with like a concrete ending right out the bat. I do have the original cover for that one. That like it's not I have it on my computer. It's never been shown to the light of day. So, but it's proof that it existed. And with Witch Trial, like I guess my original idea was like I had a whole list of like one and done adventures, but I kind of got sick of that. So then when they were suggesting like, oh, you come back and write the sequel, I'm like, okay, well, with what I've learned from the first one and from writing some other comics, I don't want this to be like, let's do it again. We're back and we're gonna do the same thing all over again. Which is why I like that the covers of Witch Trial are like a completely different style, and the art while like consistent with the theme. It is its own separate thing. Like, I think it all works together.
Mhm.
But I didn't have that planned at all. It was just very much like, what do you got? And I just sat down for a day and I'm like, this. And they're like, that works. And then I had to actually come up with a story. But if anything, I'm happier with it than the first one. But that's just me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Well,
go ahead.
I would also say too, like the first, like just going back to like the first arc with just Midnight Western Theater, it does like it just seems like you're laying out a lot of groundwork without really knowing like what the full build is going to be.
Mhm.
And like right out of the gates with Witch Trial, like that whole opening scene and when Fireman shows up, like it's just like we're hitting the ground running and we're gonna hit this hard and fast. And like I love that whole intro so much. Like it just pops in my mind every so often. And just with like the culture a lot of us were raised up in and just these singular ideas about, you know, what is beyond us. And it was like, oh, you silly humans and your single words of calling me Satan. I'm Fireman. Like,
I'm the fireman. Watch yourself. That whole opening is just what is that? That's like a gift. That's not a gift, but that's tribute to the people who read the first one, because I know 4 and 5, there's that gap of time between like when she dies and when she's resurrected. So when I've come back to this, I'm like, I'm opening up with that gap of time, and we're gonna explain what happened.
Yeah.
So I've been
place to open up.
Yeah, no, I've been sitting on the Fireman for a while, and I love him. He is one of my absolute favorite characters, and I'll say this, a little scoop. This is not the last you'll see of him. He pops up later on in the story, and
Good.
he is a hoot and a half. But I also just love the idea of just these idiots trying to summon a demon, and they summon the wrong one.
Yeah.
And that was great.
Man, that's I mean, if you're listening to this, and I mean, if you're a longtime listener of the podcast, you've definitely heard us speak very highly of Midnight Western Theater. So if you haven't read it yet, 100% you have to, or else we're not going to allow you back in the club. Just kidding. But yeah, I mean, it's honestly like it is a comic that I could recommend to anybody, because it's not like you don't have to understand how to read a comic, you know, all this stuff to be able to dive in. But there's the Midnight Western Theater isn't Witch Trial isn't the only thing you've got on the broil right now. Is that the appropriate thing? The stove, the oven? You got something cooking up.
It's on a crock pot right now, ready to explode. That's what it is.
I mean, you're 100% right with that. I'm talking about.
Oh wait! Hold up! Before we leave Midnight.
Okay.
You guys have gotten an exclusive scoop. You guys got to read issue 2 early.
Yeah,
we sure did.
We did. Yeah, no, I wanted to get into that too before we got into Blackout Bombshell, and yeah, man, like
that's right. Oh God, I keep ruining this podcast. I'm so sorry about that.
That's what you're here for. But but yeah, no, issue 2, like again, it just carries on. Like I love seeing like a young Hortensia as like she's like growing and learning about like herself and her powers, and just this relationship with Sarah Bishop, is that her name? Yeah. I'm really enjoying that, but I'm also now really enjoying this man in the white suit.
I figured what better compliment, like if she's the woman in black in the future, then who is the perfect opposite? The man in white. And
that's a really good idea.
Yeah, well, I also just like the idea of the white hat, black hat cowboy trope. And this was the best one I could think of, of playing with it. So I'm glad to hear that. Well, you guys at least read it, so that's good.
Hey, sure did. Here's what I will say about it. I continue to love it. It continues to be like it's so nice to just have another another leg of the world. You know, as somebody who's like so in love with Midnight Western Theater, like to just have another. It's like for Star Wars nerds, it's like when another Star Wars movie comes out, except it's good. Most of the time, Star Wars movies aren't. But yeah, and so I just want to say about the Man in White that he has that creepy smile that's similar to that one guy on Courage the Cowardly Dog. You know that I'm the guy that I'm talking
Oh,
about.
yeah.
Barber.
Yeah.
Maybe is that I'll have to look it up. But yeah, just his oh wow. Yeah, I mean,
Ooh.
pretty much is just like that. There's a variant issue for everybody in case
Oh,
you didn't
yeah,
know.
surprise variant for people who didn't know. I didn't even know. So keep
There
an
you
eye
go.
out. It's ultra exclusive.
I hope I get to my shop and that's the one that's sitting there, and I'm gonna have like a nice little chuckle to myself and just be like, ha, 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 ha. He didn't even know. But yeah, I mean I agree with Matt. It's just so nice to see a young Ortiza. Did I say that right? I'm sure I didn't.
Atencia.
Atencia, oh my god. And yeah, just seeing this world and just kind of seeing her not be so cold and like shut off as she is in like Midnight Western Theater, but seeing I would imagine how she becomes that way, you know, if I had to guess.
I think that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
No, I'm very proud of this one. I think next week the final cover is going to be revealed. I think on Sunday, and that one is I'll spoil it because all these have been these beautiful Art Nouveau encapsulations of all the characters involved in this story arc. So the first one is the born again girl, who is just Hortensia, as a teenage girl. And then after that is the Man in White. Third one is the Wild West Witch, who's Sarah Bishop. The fourth one is the Plague Doctor, who's the mystical shaman character. Keeps popping up.
Is he in
I'm
the
really
same guy
enjoying
for
that
number
character.
3? Oh, we're so excited. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure. I love how issue number 3 of the first arc is told. The fact that it's told from the perspective of that Native American, an old man telling the tale of like this journey he had as a young buck, you know?
Yeah, no, I think, and if you pay attention,
I try.
this was sort of like this was like retroactive like continuity, because he was a reference to Villain Seeking Hero because he popped in that. And then I'm like, oh, this is just a fun little Easter egg. And then in Witch Trial, I made him an actual character. And then given the context clues of like he is like someone who actively tries to protect Hortensia, you can now look back and read issue 3 of like, oh, this guy sent this Native American guy to sort of maybe interfere or like throw off the balance of the fight at the end. And I like that sort of passive interference. But anyway, but the final cover is going to be the Woman in Black. So it's going to be one of those wonderful Art Nouveau covers with her and her, I guess, proto costume, her first ever Woman in Black attire. So that'll be really cool. I love the design for the first one because I remember in the original Midnight issue 5, you get to see the one before the one that she's wearing all throughout Midnight. And I just like the idea that she's been slowly like switching up the style as her career progresses. I always thought that was kind of a fun detail.
Well, and then these covers though for Witch Trials, they're done by, is it Julianne Griep,
I think.
Griep, yeah. No, like her covers for this series are fantastic. Like,
oh yeah,
they're like frame on the wall worthy.
We have them hanging in my house in our little art thing. We have the first one, the Born Again Girl. So yeah.
Right. Oh, I would 100% love to get. I would have those hanging on my wall. I mean, this will be up on my wall, but I would love to get a poster of it or what have you. But can we go into the Blackout Bombshell now?
Okay, I give you permission. I give you permission. Go ahead.
Oh man. You take this one, man.
Yeah. So I was really excited to see that you had something else coming out with Blackout Bombshell. Yeah. just because, like, yeah, I have loved Midnight Western Theater, and I loved Witch Trial right out of the gate, and then Blackout Bombshell drops, and it's just like we are on a whole different playing field. And this is like, I love Jack Atlas.
Yeah, Jack
I
Atlas.
I relate to him so much. I'm not as heavy of a drinker as he is, but just like the way that his mind works and how he's also like, while he's in conversation, he's also still in conversation with himself. And like, just like at the end of chapter 1, like when he's just like, I'm starting to think I'm in trouble. And like, just this, but then also just like his waking up in the car, just being like, where am I?
I have had many people come up to me like, oh, I like your Midnight stuff is good, but I like Blackout Bombshell. Like, it's been an entirely different feeling. And I think that's very cool because being the goth cowboy guy for a little bit, I was nervous. I was anxious to have my first ever book that's just completely outside of that thing, because you're worried, oh, maybe nobody will like it. But if anything, I felt that people like this one a whole lot more. And I out of the books I've been making, this is the one I will go back and just like read. Like, every time I'm like, I want to look at this scene, I will just get swallowed up and keep going and just read the story, because I just love these characters so much. My friend Miles, he said that he loved it because it's like finally more relatable guy failure content, and that's what I want in my comic books.
Yeah,
so,
right. No, Jack is just a great character. I like every single part of this comic, and just his commentary, his chemistry with his pal Casper, and I love at the end, I can't remember what chapter it's the end of, but like when he's just like, I mean, do you want to call the cops, or do you want to come be a man and get pancakes with me?
Yeah, I think the pancakes have really cemented themselves after issue 1. I just love that whole I love the pancake monologue when he's just walking home, and it's like damn good pancakes. Like in my household, we quote often the oh, what is it? Too much chocolate for breakfast is a pervert's wonderland. Like, that's just one of the better lines from that. But
I will say that, like, watching him do that monologue as he's like walking like back to his office, I just think it's so interesting, and it's such a twist on the kind of like detective noir tropes, because you would think that he would be like, it's a rainy night. That's all I remember is darkness and seeing a dame with long legs and whatever. And then the guy's just like, man, I love pancakes, you know? And
yeah, I think
it just solidifies him as like kind of his one track mind kind of thing, you know?
I listened to one reviewer who was like, I enjoyed this book, but the main character, he's a psychopath. He's a sociopath. Like, this guy is the most insane character I've ever read in my life. And it kind of took the fun out of reading this. And I was just like, that was not the intention at all. But I can understand how some people are like, this guy's I can agree. Everyone's like, this guy's a jackass. This guy's an asshole. That I get. But like saying like, this is the like most horrible man in the world, that I can't agree with. But I guess for the viewers who don't know, I'm going to promote this because this book is next week coming out, issue 2, 48 pages of pure noir action.
Nice.
Jack Atlas is a private investigator in 1967. He's been hired to solve a very important case. Unfortunately, he can't even remember what it is. Hired during an alcohol-induced blackout. He has to figure out who hired him, what he's hired to do, and what amount of trouble he's exactly cemented himself in. So I imagine that was a good enough premise to work with. If you guys want to know about the conception of it, I remember I was listening to the Word Balloon podcast. He was interviewing Tom King, and Tom King was talking about an old like dime novel detective series about like there was a detective who he was like a professional coward, and like he was like went against the prototypical noir detective like you were speaking about, Monk. And I really like that idea because I hadn't ever thought about that myself, of just like the worst person in the world to be a private investigator being a private investigator. And I just like that idea of like just a professional coward. And then I started working with Jack Atlas and trying to come up like, well, what's the thing? And I think the first thing I ever wrote and thought up of was the scene where the woman, the femme fatale, walks into his office, immediately tries to kill him, and when he's looking for his gun, he finds nothing. And instead of the only thing he can use is his desk drawer, and just like no gun, only drawer. Like the second I came up with that, I was like, okay, we got the book, we got the tone immediately, and we ran from there.
That is a great shot of just her getting just clonked in the head with the desk here. I'll pull it up real quick. But yeah, I mean the art in this is who does the art in this?
This is Dean Kotz. I'll shout out the whole creative team because they all deserve credit. The artist is Dean Kotz. The colorist is Patrick Burmeyer. Letterer is my ever faithful letterer, Buddy Bodwin. Nice. The covers for issues 1 and 2 are Heather Vaughn, and then issue 3 is Bill Sienkiewicz. And then we have backup stories. Issue 1 is Sean Peacock. Issue 2 is Ryan Cody. And issue 3 is Beetle Moses. So
that's a great name,
man. That last story though too, just a little like adventure in Jack Atlas's life as a PI. What was it? It was titled "The Ballad of a Very Bad Boy," and he just goes on a dog chase, only to chase the dog back home.
That was a late in the game edition. They were like, "Can you we need these certain page counts? Can you make short stories?" And I'm like, "You betcha!" So that was certainly a fun one.
We're also reading Local Man, which is doing something similar with that, and it is just a fun little way. Again, like we really like one shots here, so like anything that's just kind of like a quick look into this person's world, like totally down for whatever is going on, you know.
Well, and it just makes Jack more relatable because I think a lot of people have had days where they're chasing down this dog that they got hired to chase down, and then all of a sudden it's just like, well, I found him, but I found him back home on his own doorstep. And it just makes him more of a relatable character. Like I just really vibe with the way that you've written him. Like
I just found that one. I found that one to be like that this guy's so unlikable that this dog, this perhaps very friendly dog, immediately is like no thank you. And Jack is so petty. It's like, you've just made an enemy for life, dog. Like you and me, we're done.
Yeah, I mean it's very interesting to just see his like I really do just love his just like kind of fly by the seams of his pants kind of just way of doing things, of just like, it's all working out, you know, like we're okay. You know, like
I'm winning, so that means I'm right. I'm doing everything correctly.
He's like, I'm not currently I'm not dead yet, so like it must be what I'm doing must be the right choice, you know. But just the way that I think with the way that you've written him, have portrayed a man that's deeply delusional about like his own problems, but still like the way that one of my favorite comics I think is King of Nowhere, that I have back up here, and that also deals with an alcoholic and him kind of just dealing with like confronting it in a very serious, like kind of weird way. But this is kind of like the opposite of it, of just like a guy who's like completely just like, man, don't worry about it, we'll wake up and like we'll figure out like how we got into this predicament, and we'll just keep on rolling. And I just it's really, he's just, again, like it's like a Tony Soprano is like, you probably shouldn't be rooting for this guy, but here you are just being like, go get him, you know.
You do it, Jack. I think with this book, one of the things I very much enjoyed was the dynamic between him and his best friend Casper Fitzpatrick, because because he in his B plot is going through his own problems, and I like the idea that Jack is an absolute mess, but he's at least like honest with his like he knows he's a mess, and he's the first to admit like I know I'm a fucking problem. Get off my back. Like move away. Well, Casper's like, I am morally I'm right, and I would never do nothing wrong. But then it's like you scratch underneath that, and it's like, oh no, you're a mess. You just try to cover it up.
Right.
And I think I think that was the kind of fun dynamic and I think more relatable friendship between two scumbags who are like the complete opposite ends of the scumbag spectrum. And
that's a good way to put it.
they exhibit the thing maybe the other person wishes they could exhibit more. So I think, and of course that provides a good buddy dynamic, which is good for any story.
Right.
Just speaking to their dynamic, like what in chapter 2 or chapter 3 when they whenever it's like the flashback to the night before and Jack's just drunk drinking with Marlo
Benson.
I love their opening too of just discussing, is Captain Kirk like, is he really all that he's supposed to be? Would
Captain die in Vietnam?
Yeah, he would definitely die in Vietnam. But like just how it plays through that whole scene, and then we get to the back alley, and Jack doesn't remember anything that happens in the back alley, and then it's just like, well, we found Marlo.
Let's go. Let's get
get some pancakes.
Like, this is not good. Like this is but I think that goes into the whole insanity thing, because imagine he's a Korean war vet. I'm sure dead bodies are nothing to him. So I think it's like, oh, here's the corpse of my friend that's part of this elaborate conspiracy, and then like you said later on when he's walking home, the only thing that's really stuck with him is his breakfast. Like this is the most pressing thing going on. That's bizarre. Did you guys read the second issue? Because I sent that to you, I'm pretty sure.
Yep. Mad looks like he.
Oh no.
Maybe I didn't. I may have downloaded the shoot.
I sent the Dropbox. Oh yeah.
Yep, there it is. I'm looking at it on Dropbox.com.
So, I think I know what I did. I think I confused myself with issue 1, and like that's what I uploaded.
You just
to like
missed out on
my reading
scoop.
device.
You missed out on the biggest.
I'm gonna read it
right now.
Yeah. Well, I will say that I did read it, and I just really enjoyed, again, like the same thing I said about Midnight Western Theater, is just being in this world. This just kind of wacky, dark world. Like, again, because this issue does the most, obviously, of like kind of exploring what's happening. Again, because like in the first issue, mostly we're just seeing like him kind of fumbling into the situation. And this is him kind of unpacking what's happening. And it's just a lot of fun to just see where this knucklehead like continues to just go further into this, and just to see more of these characters explored. And I will say my favorite scene is when they're
wait, don't spoil nothing, but
I won't.
Let me guess, was it when everything changes?
Yes, we'll say that when everything changes.
I've been building that was like our crescendo moment. Like I had originally, this book was it was going to be in black and white, and that scene was going to be the only one in color. And but because we kept when we got Patrick Burmeyer on, which was excellent because his coloring is amazing, we still kept that whole scene like, okay, we're still going to make this crazy as possible. But yeah, no, that bit is just excellent. We were very proud of that scene in particular.
Yeah, and you should be. It's a lot of, I'm a big fan, and we've talked about this a lot, of just when you do something like non-traditional, of just being like, we don't have to stay with this, we can kind of swing into something fun. And again, not spoiling anything, but I like how Casper kind of stayed normal, whereas Jack, he was the one where everything was more like, obviously crazy. Am I correct? Yeah. Okay.
I will say, I'll give you a good Louis secret. Lewis's greatest secrets revealed. That whole sequence was real. That all happened to me. That whole thing. I was at a party, and that is a beat for beat recreation
what happened.
Of what happened. There's some embellishments, but for the most part, it's a beat for beat thing.
Right.
Of everything taking effect.
Hopefully, how you got there is not the same way as how those.
Oh no! It was.
Well, that's good, but well, there you go. That's a little sizzle for everybody to go out and try to figure out what it is.
People love vagueness.
But yeah, I mean, I was kind of bummed when I saw that it was 3 issues. Because I really like this character, I like this world, and it's similar again to Midnight Western Theater. Is like I would love to just see what this guy gets up to all the time.
I think
that would where everything changes.
I think that would spoil the appeal, if anything. I think
that's
this was originally supposed to be an OGN, and when Sumerian accepted it, they're like, we don't want to publish it as an OGN. We want to publish it as a miniseries. So luckily, I managed to split it up almost perfectly to have everything paced right, which was very fortunate on my part. I will say that this book was, when I wrote it, it felt like I could really just be myself, so to speak. I got to just muck around with what I thought was funny and dramatic and interesting. So I think I would only dive into this if I had a really solid idea for another one. Fortunately, I have an idea for a sequel. So, but
don't put it out there yet.
No, I won't.
Somebody will take it and make it a domain name.
Noggin.
Exactly. I won't say nothing, but this took a very long time to make, and I'm working on many other projects right now. So I would much rather wait a bit before I do that. I think personally, it would be a real treat to come back to it, and I'd save that for when I have earned it. But
sure.
I definitely have more ideas for these specific characters, but leave them wanting more. I think that's the way to look at it.
I 100% agree.
Well, you've definitely succeeded in that with at least me. Like I want more Hortensia, and I want more Jack Atlas. Like you just have a really, like, I don't know, I guess strong like way in how you write your characters, and like
I love writing freaks and losers, man. that's what I like.
Well, we're freaks and losers, so you came to the right place.
I think if you look at all my stories, everyone is either someone with a humongous problem or just a complete down and trodden maniac. And I think I don't know. That's just fun to me. I hate writing like perfect characters or like people who have less flaws. I think for me, I just like people with a bit of tragedy to them, but not tragedy to the point of like this is a bummer, but definitely like, oh, they contain multitudes. There's just shit going on.
And, I mean that's such a realistic take though too, because like most people do have tragedy that they've been through, and like there is no shiny perfect person that exists. And I think that's again like why the characters you write, like we can relate to them. Like, no, I'm not a blackout alcoholic, but like just the way that Jack ponders his day and goes through it. Like a lot of times I'm doing the same monologue about pancakes. It's like, man, talking about a burger, like next time I should get this cheese instead of cheddar. Like,
yeah, I think if you look at like what is Midnight One, if you boil it down, it's just like a dysfunctional couple just being dragged around doing jobs and just them like growing like the completely opposite people who are, I guess, somewhat codependent and needs and then like I always think of it's in that last issue where you figure it out. Where like, oh, we both have the same type of hurt or same type of problem. We almost help each other, feel seen. And I think that was the way to look at it with that one. And then Midnight Witch Trial, that one's just a mom who fucking hates her. Or no, a daughter who hates her mom. It's just like, I'm grown up and I can do what I want. And how maybe when you're younger, you don't appreciate the things your parents are trying to do for you. And then Jack Atlas, I don't know what the theme is. It's just about like, oh man, I should drink less. I think that's just the message.
He's like talking to himself into like, oh, I can do this. I know I can. I'll start tomorrow.
Willpower would make a nun weep.
Well, hey, we were talking earlier backstage about how, you're not just a comic book writer, but you're also a comic book reader. And we did also talk about that earlier in the podcast. So how would you feel about maybe we all do a round of a comic we got into this week?
That sounds excellent, because I have many thoughts and I never get to tell anyone about the comics I'm reading. Sure. I don't have any comic friends, so this will be perfect.
Lay them out. Let's hear. I would love to know what you got into.
Well, this week I read 4 books. I'm pretty sure it was off the top of my head. Big Game #4. Nice. I read Avengers Inc. #2. Nice. #3 was Kill Your Darlings #2.
Oh, nice.
And Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees #1.
Oh. Did I pull that one?
I almost got that one.
Okay. Oh well, no. I'll save that opinion. But I would highly rate that book.
Nice. All right. Yeah, I think I might have had that on my pool for this week. But what was your favorite out of all of those?
That one.
Oh, that one. Okay.
Oh yeah. No. Here, I'll go. Do you want me to? I feel like you guys should talk for a bit. I'll take
go ahead.
Okay. I'll gut through them. My least favorite was Big Game #4.
No spoilers. We're on that too. So keep that one vague for us.
I do like the concept of somebody looking at their entire bibliography and being like, what if they were all set in the same universe? I find that to be very interesting. In terms of how it's executed, I think it artistically very well done, but it does have that Mark Millar mean-spiritedness to it that sort of takes the fun out of the book. But it's still I read a lot of books for fun, and I also read a lot of books because I like to figure out why they work, or why this person is very successful, or why does this comic work. And that's definitely one of them, because I'm like, why does Mark Millar work? And that
is a good question.
Yeah. And this book, it is answering that question, and I'm not sure I like the answer, but that's my opinion. That was my least favorite. After that, Kill Your Darlings #2. Did you guys read that?
I've read #1. I haven't gotten to #2 yet.
Well, I know the Supple Boys, as they refer to themselves, Griffin and Ethan, I think, the writers, and I figured I'd give this a go to support them, because they're young bucks like myself. So I did not like this one as much as the first one. The artist, that's Bob Quinn. He's doing a phenomenal job, but this one, it just didn't hit for me personally. That's not a slight to their writing. I just think it kind of lost the momentum from the first one.
Sure.
But that's just me. Then after that was Avengers Inc. That one I am hate reading, because it's Al Ewing doing like a noir Avengers tale, and I hate it because he's using this story, I can tell, to bring back Hank Pym. And because he's been Ultron for like 10 years. And I hated it, because I've been wanting to pitch to Marvel an idea to bring back Hank Pym since forever. Like, this is my pie in the sky pitch. And then it's like, oh no, he's already doing it. And I'm like, damn you. So but it's very good.
He'll probably go away one day again. So
Oh yeah.
They all do.
They all do. So don't feel bad. You'll get a chance to bring Hank Pym back from something.
Yeah, right. Yeah, when he dies for the third time.
Yep.
Yeah. He'll die in a Captain America book, and then they'll resurrect him as an Inhuman, and then they'll go from there.
That's all right.
And his powers has nothing to do, his inhuman powers nothing to do with shrinking.
It'd be great if he was stretchy. Anyway,
he can stretch and shrink. It's so useless because you're just becoming smaller, but you're not really in. Oh wow, that's hilarious to me, that concept. I really hope in the parallel universe out there somewhere that's coming out right now is Hank Pym and Human is the title of that. Oh,
it'll be a what if.
Yeah, there you go. There's your what if. What if he was an Inhuman and he has stretching abilities, but he's like, I also want to shrink. It's not enough that I can get wide and long. I also need to get small. Oh my god. Anyways, thank you. I'm sorry. That was a lot of fun for me. Ant-Man is like one of my favorite characters, so imagining him doing anything is fun.
Yeah, no, I don't want to think about that. It'll only make me mad. But Al Ewing is a fantastic writer. The art is pretty standard, and the story is just like a throwback, fun little thing. And that's just more like my junk food book. That's just like and also my hate book. But then the one that wowed me the most, and I recommend it to you guys. This was a killer first issue. Like if you like as a first impression. It's written and illustrated by Patrick Horvath. It's Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees. It's an IDW book. This is a like primo book. It's perfectly made. It's perfectly made in every way. And it's as a creative myself, that's infuriating, but also like inspiring to see when you just see something so spectacular. And the premise is not a spoiler, but it is about a serial killer in like a plushy, anthropomorphic, cutesy world.
Yep. Okay.
Who discovers that there is another serial killer in town, and that killer may like get them caught because the other one's so sloppy. So it's like they have to play a game of chess to catch the one who may throw off their entire lives. And the art is amazing. I gasped at one page. It's
really?
It's amazing. It's so I could not rate this higher. It's so unique, and it's just great.
We do this thing on the show where we give a comic that we really love a shout out by calling it the banger of the week. Would you call this your banger of the week?
It's the banger of the year. It's the banger of the century.
Well, here I got a fun little sound clip to play for that.
Banger of the week.
So there you go. That was.
Now that I think about it, the week that Bombshell dropped, that was my banger of the week.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you've got at least one accolade for this. So. Feel you can pat yourself on the back for that. But Mad, what did you get into this week, buddy?
Honestly, all I did this week was read Midnight Western Theater Witch Trials, and Blackout Bombshell issue 1 and not issue 2 for some reason.
Man, you missed that.
But no, I did read I think it's
something's hidden back there. What is it?
No.
We'll never know. Oh, it's not that one.
No,
that whole wall's gonna come crashing down.
You already reviewed this.
Oh, this is the one I was gonna talk about. Dang it.
Fun guy. Scout. It's from Scout.
Who?
Yep.
And Scout Comics.
Oh, okay.
But honestly, what I appreciated the most about this comic was just the art. Like the story is really cool, but the art just takes the cake in this one because it is. I don't know, Louis, if you saw this one at all. But
that's J.M. Ringwet, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And
Dude,
and I believe he did the whole thing. Yeah, like he cartooned it. Like he was not just the writer.
Yep.
But no, that's probably the only comic outside of your stuff that I read this week.
Well, hey, I read it as well, and it is like, again, outside of all of your stuff excluded, because those are all bangers of the week.
Banger of the week.
But this is also my banger of the week. I just absolutely love this, of just seeing a fun, like, I said this in my review, that when these guys are swinging their swords through like these mushroom humanoids, you can feel what it's like to cut mushrooms. Like,
Yeah.
that's what it feels like. And I just love, we talk about this with like Righteous Thirst for Vengeance, is like, there's art that like makes you be able to like feel the world, is just does such a good job of just like sucking you into like, oh, this is what it feels like to be these characters, you know? So I absolutely loved it. It was just about this like group of like just random humanoid fungi that just they're like, it's like set kind of in like a feudal Japan kind of, or just like ancient Asia, broad kind of narrative. Yeah.
Everybody has clans and their style of martial arts. And
Yeah, and it's that there's a map at the beginning, which I wish I could pull up, but man, like, you got to appreciate a guy who can sit down and like think about a map, That's pretty dope. So awesome, good job to them, because yeah, I'm just loving that comic. But
Yeah.
I think that might be all that we have for this week. I think it might be time for us to jump on a skeleton horse.
I do have one more question for Louis.
Oh, yeah, no,
Oh,
I
God.
was just about to say this. If you guys have any questions left that's piqued your curiosity about the books I've written, what I'm going to do in the future, or like just any lingering things, you got the source right here, direct pipeline. So if you have any little tidbits, now's the time.
Let's see if we have any comments. And Matt, did you have something there?
So my question actually just had to do, because we did also talk backstage about how we typically go through our polls this week, and you can see what I pulled this week because I already posted it, but I'm wondering what Louis got this week.
Oh, for the 25th?
Yeah, or like,
I have no Blackout Bombshell #2. I know that for certain.
Yeah.
I think he means today. Or you got most of those comments that you mentioned earlier today, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so those are all ones you got today. So is there anything you're looking forward to next week other than your own work?
I really don't pay attention to what's coming out. I just kind of wait for the day, and then I just get what appeals to me. So unfortunately, I don't have a very sexy or cool answer for you.
Hey, that's a cool one. Because that's how I do it. I love just showing up. I think one of the best things about going to the comic shop is just kind of popping in there and just being like, what's awaiting for me today?
Yeah.
Mad does love Mad does love knowing going in. But I'm just like, just surprise me. And then I say that, and then I'm just like, I've got way too many comics this week. But yeah, that's
I do leave room for a little bit of surprise though. Like I try to budget each week on how much I can spend on comics, and so I know what I need to spend. It makes it easier for me to go in there and know I can't spend more than this, and so sometimes I have a little extra wiggle room, and I will go stare at the shelf and see what I need.
But yeah, I mean, what do you have some more stuff in the pipeline? Can we be, waiting to just see your name up on the shelf again anytime soon on a new title?
Okay, well, that's a good question. I am currently working on a lot of stuff. Sometimes it feels like too much. I am working on a 6-issue sci-fi miniseries, and hopefully I am this close to sealing the deal with that one. So fingers crossed.
Yes,
another one. The other two are graphic novels. One is a children's superhero graphic novel, and then the other one is the complete opposite. It is a slice of life romance graphic novel. So those are the two ones I'm working with. So that's 3. I just started working on a new pitch with an amazing artist. She goes professionally by Puree, and that one is a high fantasy book. So
Nice.
I guess that's four things right now. And I think if all things go well with another thing, I could be landing my first licensed IP soon. But I don't want to jinx myself.
No.
So I will not be getting that. I won't be getting anything good. So
Well,
I am busy. I am busy. Let's just
it
say
sure
that.
sounds like it. But
Yeah.
I mean, we just genuinely do wish you all the best, and like I can't understate how much I am looking forward to seeing new stuff from you, the continuation of the stuff that's already out. You're a fantastic writer. I'm sorry that I did such a terrible intro for you that's going to haunt me for the rest of your life, along with the fact that I had your Instagram handle screwed up in the bottom banner the whole time. So I just want you to know that this whole episode is going to haunt me for the rest of your life. Yes, of your life as well as my life.
I was going to cry right after this ended, but you've spoiled it now.
Well, I do want to say one thing that'll hopefully kind of remedy myself or solve the situation a little bit or put some balm on the wound. That I just want to say a thank you, because your comic did genuinely help kind of not that we didn't have a friendship, but Matt and I really just got into like talking on the phone and just going into comics, and Midnight Western Theater was 100% one of like it's like one of the reasons that this podcast exists. And this is episode 70. And like, so it's just so cool to know that like over a year and a half in, or however long it's been, it's because like Midnight Western Theater was so good that we were like, we should do this online every week. We should talk about comics. Again, it's just that like when you come across something and it hits you at the right time, it leaves you with that power to feel enabled to go and do something in response to it. So just thank you for putting that out there, and thank you for just giving me an excuse to hang out with my pal every week.
Well, that's really nice to hear, and I'm glad that could happen. I think with this kind of job, you don't really, at least for me, I'm nobody, so like I don't really know the extent of how people feel about the books. So just knowing that like the book could do that for you guys, or could inspire you to even start the show in some way, how little or big that may be, that's really nice. And that's it makes it all a little more special. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
All right, Matt, anything else you want to say before we
I don't really know how to go off of what you just said, because the sentiment's the same over here.
I'm good with words except for introductions and spelling them.
If you want me to tune us out, I can do a grand exit.
Well, hold on, we'll get there. But before we get there, where can people find you? What's the best way to contact you and also support you? like not contact you. Well, maybe.
What's your address?
Where can people find you? What's your? Can you put your drop your Apple pin or whatever it is?
Well, you can find me at Louis Southard on Instagram, at Louis J Southard on Twitter or X. I'm on Blue Sky at Louis Southard. And if you just want the overall in general, LouisSouthard.com is an excellent way to find me. Just Google my name, I'll be there. So yeah, that's where you'll find me. And at your local comic book store, that's where you'll find me as well.
That's right. Well, hey, Matt, where can people find us?
Well, you can find us at the pullboxpals pretty much everywhere. Just at the pullboxpals. You can find me at Matt_nerdy. You can find Monk at that Monk guy. We are on Instagram, TikTok. I believe we're on Twitter, but we don't really do it too much.
Yep. We did it today because Louis was kind enough to tag us in a post, and I was kind enough to retweet it. And then I was like, "Oh, I should do more things."
Oh, this is weird. I got a Twitter notification.
Yeah, that's kind of what it felt like. And then I started reading it. I'm like, "Oh, wait, this is fun stuff."
I know this guy.
Yeah. But okay, so Louis, we have a catchphrase at the end for each season, and this season it is "I haven't read comics like this in years." You're welcome to do a grandiose exit, but if you could finish on that, and then we'll go into the outro music, I would love that. I feel like I just threw too much at you there. Is that too much?
I'll try to time it right. So what was it? I haven't read comics in years.
I haven't read comics like these in years.
Like these in years. Okay, I'll try my best.
Well, I'll explain it real quick. We got it from Mug Root Beer slogan is I haven't drank whatever. I don't even know what is it.
I think it's I haven't drank root beer like this in years
or something like that. So we just switched it up.
Okay, I'll try my best. Okay, let's do it.
We got this. We're doing it live.
Well, Pullbox Pals, after another thrilling episode featuring Mad, Monk, and Louis Southard, the greatest comic book writer who ever lived.
Amen.
We can only end this knowing that I forgot the fucking what is it?
It's I haven't read comics like these in years.
There we go.
Louis, we do a fun little closing tag at the end here. You got anything funny to say?
No.
Okay, that'll work.